I need another engine. I still got to do everything I said. I fly into Livonia where we had our offices, and I was meeting with Keith Crane. Keith was mad at me because I wouldn't let anybody come in and see what we were doing. And one of his reporters snuck into the garage that we were building prototypes with a camera, and my people took the camera and broke it. And he said, how can you not let automotive news? I said, what the hell do I give a damn for automotive news now? I said, I'm not showing anybody, this is before we had their showing, anybody about anything we're doing right now. And you guys ought to respect that. He said, no, we don't respect that. We're in the business of reporting. We need to get the information. And if you were smart, you'd cooperate with us because we can do you a lot of good. And he said, why is Hal Sperlich waiting in your waiting room? I said, who's Hal Sperlich? You got that? I didn't know who Hal Sperlich was. He said, he's Iacocca's right-hand man. Iacocca was at Ford. No kidding. Great. I don't know either, but I'll tell you, Keith, it was nice talking to you today. I probably will listen to you, but I got to go get Hal. Hal comes in. How are you? He said, Lee sent me to check out and see what you're doing. I said, be happy to show you anything you want. He said, it's a funny thing too, I said to him. I've been thinking about giving you a call because we're building the car in Canada, and I understand the Windsor 351 is built in Windsor. He said, you're right. I said, if we can work out a deal, I'll switch from American Motors to the Ford engine. Oh, he said, great. Go, and I show him the thing, and he meets everybody, he sees what we're doing, and he gets excited. What a cool thing. He said, okay, you got a deal. So we made a deal to buy the engine from Ford with 1,000 cars a month. Now, I'm feeling extremely happy and fortunate enough that Keith told me who was out there, because I would have never had the slightest idea. And we re-engineer everything, and it is now December, about near the end, right before Christmas season, and we're getting the first shipment in January, and we're going to start shipping cars. I'm in the LA airport with my wife and 3 kids, at the time only 3, and first wife. And we're on the way to Acapulco for a 2-week Christmas vacation. And I get a call from the office. We have a problem. Ford's not going to ship us engines. No, that can't be. It cannot possibly be. What in the world could they possibly imagine? Sperlich was too nice a guy. The negotiations were very pleasant. Something's wrong. So I call Hal Sperlich, no answer. Call Lee Iacocca, no answer. I call Henry Ford, I say no answer. Nobody's returning the call. I'm sitting in the VIP room at the LA airport waiting to go to Acapulco. I had just flown in from Scottsdale, where I was living at the time. And I start putting out my messages. Call me back in an hour, or you'll read about it in the paper. Hal calls me. What's wrong, Malcolm? What's wrong? I just got told I got no engines. Well, let me get back to you. I said, not too long, because either I'm going on a plane to Acapulco or I'm going on a plane to Washington. One of those 2 things, and I got to know before the plane gets here. I'll get back to you. Calls back, he said, I know the problem. It was a lawyer problem. They decided it was too much risk against what could the possible return be. You're going to buy them all? Big deal. We spill that many engines. I said, that's a no. And if you don't sell me, that's exactly what I'm going to tell them. They spill that many engines, but they wouldn't sell it to me after I spent the money for engineering, re-engineering the whole damn thing. He said, yeah, I know that's really tough. I said, please don't make me have to do, I don't want to be into how do I mess and rile up everybody, because I don't believe what I'm about to tell them is true. I think it's exactly what you told me. He said, I'll get right back to you. Got back, he said, Lee says, no problem, you got the engine. Whew. And I went off to Acapulco.
4 was a 4-speed, because we had to have an EPA car that we could drive 4,000 miles under them driving it, under their supervision. That was called a tag test, because you can't change an inline driven part without another EPA test. Now, if you've got a new vehicle, it's 50,000 miles, no hiccups. It hiccups, the whole thing is null and void and throw it away. Those tests 40 years ago where our cost $2.25 per driven mile. So this is not something you do without paying a whole lot of attention.
So we're getting what kind of body they want. They want me to do steel. I don't want to do steel. Then they go fiberglass. I don't want to do fiberglass. It runs. I had a couple Corvettes. So I'm looking around and I get to Roman Haas, who builds acrylic sheets. And they use these acrylic sheets, which are solid color, in bathtubs, in bathrooms. Put it on the wall. Boom, you got a new wall. Okay. Tell me about it. Well, if you get a scratch, you just buff it out. If you're running for a car, you reinforce it with fiberglass. You can't make a dent. If you hit it hard enough to make a dent, you make a hole. And you can put the hole right back in. Put glue on, buff it, you got your body back. No kidding. By the way, at 35-mile-an-hour crashes, it goes into the wall, the fenders crack and go off. I can put the fenders back, glue them in the back. All right. So now, okay, acrylic reinforced with fiberglass. Oh, isn't that great? Now they got to make molds and they got to figure in just a million different things. I had no idea. And we're doing it. And I'm now learning about the car business painfully. Another million. But I'm talking little millions. I'm not talking billions like they talk now. And then I got to get a motor from somebody, an engine, safety regulations. You can't build engines anymore. And that not then, because you had to meet all the safety things. It was just out of the question. The amount of money you needed to build it, to create an engine and the transmission and meet all the regulations was too much serious money. So I had to buy it from somebody. So we got an American Motors 360, 4-barrel, nice engine. We got a contract from them, $1,000 a month. We put it in. We had to meet a 50,000-mile test, which is a royal pain in the ass. We met the 50,000-mile test. Now, we don't have bumpers. The 25 miles is out. I'm finally convinced that's way too much stuff. I'll have to have a bumper about this big to go in that much and then come out that much. Oh, my God. It will look like you be stupid. I mean, just nothing good. So I find, okay, great. But we still don't have, what are we going to do to have this happen? We're going to build the body around the bumper so it can go in and out without hurting the body. I'm flying into LA one day, and as we land, it hits me. What did we just do? We just landed a plane. The wheels went in and out. That's what I want. I get off the plane, get in the taxi, go to the company that makes the wheel mechanism to close, that keeps the wheels from back and forth when you land. And I tell them what I want to do. Yeah. So I say, here's what I want to do. Here's what the car is going to weigh. I want 10-mile-an-hour bumpers. Can you get them for me? They said, of course. They ended up making me 2 little units for the front and 2 units for the back. Each one cost me $1.50. I have 10-mile-an-hour bumpers. Now, that would not make General Motors or Ford or Chrysler happy, because for their lousy $1.50, they just lost a couple $1,000 worth. Now, the bumper was sturdier than a normal bumper, and it cost more money. So I'm exaggerating on how low it cost, but it didn't cost very much. Now I have a body that won't dent. I have an exterior that will look the same. I told them 40 years from now, it's 47 years, they look exactly the same. All you have to do is buff them. And if you want, you can paint them. It doesn't matter. Now we have to build a dozen of them to send them around the country to find out what happens in the mountains and what happens in the hot and what happens in the cold. Let's find out what the hell happens with our wonderful vehicles. Oh, the first thing is nobody will give me the door I want. I got a gull wing. I insist on a glass that goes up and down. By the way, no gull wing door ever made has a window that goes up and down, because the physics of it, when it's out, when it's down, and when it's up, is so dramatically different that what you need is whatever. And my guys refused to find a solution. They wanted to talk me out of the glass, and they wanted to talk me out of a push button. Wanted to go by hand, and I refused. I remember now we're a month and a half from production. No, excuse me. Yeah, a month and a half from production. I'll tell you about the engine in a minute. Month and a half from production. I don't have the doors I want. The reason I built the car, I can't have the doors. And at that time, there wasn't computers designing the car. I had 200 engineers sitting in Livonia drawing the engineering for a year. And I'm walking out to the car to go to the airport, and I'm really frustrated. And a kid comes running after me that works inside. He said, Mr. Bricklin, he said, I can get you what you want. I said, hey, really? What is it? He said, you take the hydraulic cylinder from the convertible, that takes the convertible up and down, and you put it on the B pillar, and you push a button, it'll open, and you push a button, it'll close. No kidding. Why don't you tell them? He said, oh, I've told them. He said, they're not interested in doing it. And in fact, if you do it, when you leave, I'm getting fired. Oh, really? Come here with me, kid. I walk in, I call everybody in. I said, this gentleman just told me a very interesting solution. And I have to tell you, I'm excited. I know it'll work. So I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to leave. I'll be back next week. If it's on the car and working, we're in production. If it's not on the car and working, I'm closing the place. We're not building the car. And if anybody messes with the kid, they're getting fired. Came back a week later, you pushed a button and it worked. All right. And I'll tell you the end story with that. But now I got the doors that work. And I have, because it's hydraulic, enough for the glass to be either way. I got no more problem. Everything is solved. Things are ready to go. And I'm looking at the car and it starts to rain. But not a normal rain, one of those fast rains that comes pouring down. So I run out to shut the doors. Now remember, they're hydraulic. If you have the hydraulic go too fast, you maybe cut your hand off if you don't do something smart. So I push the button and it takes 6 seconds for the door to close. Did you ever stand in the rain for 6 seconds? All right, now, but first I got to jump in, and now I'm inside and I'm closing in. It's raining in on me. So it means in the rain, normally I have to wait 6 seconds for it to open, jump in, and 6 seconds. Oh my God. This is the most horrible. This is the next worst thing to the bodies coming apart. But I got cars out. They're out there. They're already delivered, and I'm building more. Oh my God, what am I going? I remember it was hard as hell to get this solution. What am I going to do? I got to change it. This is not acceptable. So I called my friend Frank Turner in Graham, Texas, who he's no longer alive, a great inventor, not a good inventor, a great inventor. And I said, Frank, I got a problem flying to Detroit. Somebody will pick you up and you got to solve the problem for me. So he comes in, I show him the door, and I said, I need the door to go boom, and I need the door to come down and stop, and then close slowly so it doesn't cut off anybody's fingers. And I got to do it so I can put it into the car that I got right now. I said, okay, no problem. I'll be back in a week. I said, give me a car. So I give him a car and he drives to Graham, Texas. The end of the week, he calls me, I'm there, come on in. So I fly in. Everybody walks out to the car. He pushes a button that goes whoop. He pushes another button that goes whoop, stops 6 inches above and closes. This is fantastic. What do I have to change? Nothing. He said, I took the hydraulic fluid out of the hydraulic lift and put in air. And you have a box frame. Your engine makes air and it pumps it into the box frame. That's it. We didn't get one of the cars in production on because we got closed down before we could do it. But 90% of the cars on the road today have that in because some people who left the factory to go be in their business of fixing Bricklins put them on all the cars that come walking in. They want to be fixed. And it's fabulous. Not good. Not boom, boom. That's simple.
And of course, it was a learning curve. Now, I'll tell you a funny story about how important testing is and how the most amazing things that you could never imagine can happen. So we had cars, I was listening to Detroit Now, tell me what to do. And we had cars all over the country being driven. In the heat, in the cold, in the snow, in the mountains, everywhere we could. And one day I get a call from a man who had been driving the car in the Phoenix area in the summertime. And he said, Mr. Bricklin? I said, yeah. He said, we have a very serious problem. Now, what could possibly be a serious problem? The problem is, he says, we're out in 115 degrees in the daytime, and we're taking it inside in air conditioning in nighttime, and the body is now on the floor. I said, what are you talking about? He said, the acrylic has come off of the fiberglass. Now the car is a fiberglass car, and the acrylic is on the floor. I said, what are you talking? How could that be? They said, because when you put the two together, you don't bond them, you glue them. And they each change at different temperatures, different degree, and they pop off. So you need, this is the first one that happened, by the way, and we're going to be in production in like 30 days. And that's all I needed. As bodies go falling on the floor, can you imagine? That would have lasted, I would have been in business in another minute. So I said, well, no, that's no problem. We just need a glue that will bond, that will go inside each. So when it moves the glue, it doesn't separate. So they said, no problem. They called Corning and for fiberglass, and they said, well, we don't know anything about acrylic. And we called Roman Haas, and they said, well, we don't know anything about fiberglass. So I said, are you telling me neither one of you have what I need? No. We haven't the slightest idea. So I turned to my own people and I said, you got 2 weeks to invent a bond. I don't care what you do. If you don't, I got to close the doors. I can't have acrylic on the floor. And they did. And nobody ever came off again.
Cool.
And our people designed it, our people did it. And today, 45 years later, those cars look exactly like they came off the factory floor. All you have to do is buff it, boom, and they look great.
Ça colle pas. De quoi tu parles? Ça colle pas. De l'acrylique et du fibre de verre, c'est comme libéraux, conservateurs. Colle pas. Français, anglais. Colle pas. Vos projections puis nos réalités. Colle pas. De l'acrylique puis du fibre de verre, ça colle pas, Albert. Là, Hutchison, là, il sait plus quoi faire à Minto. Ça fait 2 fois que vous, non, pas que vous, que toi, tu changes d'acrylique. Parlant de plastique, là, le dernier, il fondait à 159 degrés Fahrenheit. Tu sais-tu combien il peut faire en Arizona l'été? 180. Fait que ton char, là, il va fondre puis il va coller sur le pavé. Ça, c'est si on arrive à en produire un seul.
Il n'y a pas un cœur de fête encore?
So far, là, il y a plus de chèques qui sortent de l'usine qu'il y a de cœur. Puis la seule porte que vous avez réussi à faire fonctionner comme de l'allure, c'est ta porte à toi, Calice. Ça fait qu'arrête de signer des chèques, puis check les signes. Parce que moi, les signes, ils me disent que ça va mal. Calme-toi, là. Je suis très calme, Albert. C'est quoi ton nom?
C'est Billy.
Qu'est-ce que tu fais dans la vie, Billy?
Je suis un pipe fitter.
Quel âge que t'as, mon Billy?
J'ai 24.
Tu crois-tu que t'es capable de faire ce job ici?
Ben, j'ai tout le temps été bon avec mes mains.
Ça colle pas!
Qu'est-ce qui se passe avec Hennessy?
Qu'est-ce qu'elle bat si c'est anyway?
See that car? That's me. What's your name, kid?
Billy.
Well, Billy, you're hired. Now you go build that car.
Thank you. Thank you.
J'ai allé à Détroit pour faire une pétition avec Hutchison pour clairer mon père sans même en parler.
T'en parler? T'es pas parlable! Déjeuner ici! Puis quand je te dis que ton Space Age, ça marche pas, tu m'écoutes pas!
Hey, j'ai même entendu parler qu'il y avait du monde qui voulait me clairer moi. Moi, Jack, Malcolm Griffin.
T'essaies de réinventer la roue! En comme, puis elle est pas ronde, elle est carrée comme ta tête! Bonne chance, les boys!
Ouais, ça chauffe aujourd'hui.
Bringing parts in and then chasing the cars around the loop, and then getting to what was called the garage area, which was generally only used in a car factory to put some finishing touches if necessary. But what was happening was we were virtually building the car by hand in the garage and ignoring the fact that it was going around the loop. And at that time we had about 8 or 10 tough guys from the St. John Motorcycle Association, sometimes known as a gang, and they really were a fine bunch. When Jack Hennessy joined us from Ontario, he was a very, very experienced automotive executive, and he had worked for Ford, I believe, and he looked into the management structure and the way things got done or didn't get done, and he was horrified when he found that there was no reporting structure. He found out that there were so many conflicts between executives, officers, directors, that the people that were there to make things happen and build cars didn't know if they were on their rear end or their elbows. So he sat down with Malcolm and he sat down with Albert, and he said, neither of you gentlemen could organize a drunk in a brewery, to be polite. And I don't think they accepted his opinion, but when I heard an experienced man like Hennessy say what he said, then I thought, well, you know, this is not working with these guys in charge, and it never will work as long as they are in charge. And I think it's about time I got out, because I'm not going to be able to remove them. The only people that can remove these guys are the government of New Brunswick. And so I decided to leave, and I had already been offered a job in Fredericton, and that was the end.